All right, so welcome back to part 3. This is where we're going to start getting into building and running the project itself. This is a pretty fun time. Just as a quick review, what we've done so far is we've taken the time to actually sketch out our ideas, refine what the product is actually going to be when we launch, and then we've also taken the time to craft a elegant prompt for ChatGPT that had some instructions in it in order to create a few documents that will allow us to build the product as closely as possible to how we envision it. So that's what we've done so far. We did that with the iPad. You could do it with scratch paper. I used a text document. Any text document works fine to craft your prompt. If there is enough demand, basically if you comment down below, I'd like to see it, then I will go ahead and build up a template that you can use so that you can use this same type of process with your own app. So yeah, what we want to do today for this video, now that we have, Cursor on its way and starting to build the product, now we want to actually start communicating with Cursor and encouraging it to follow our progress document that we took so much time to create. And then while we do that, we're going to be looking and checking over in our user stories to make sure that our product is being built the way that we intended. And we can continue to kind of test that. Along the way, I suspect we'll run into some roadblocks or just some things that we might need to do more research on, but that's just all a part of the process. So without further ado, let's take a look at Cursor. So last time I wanted to make sure to leave off at a pretty good spot. So I made sure that you at least got your first prompt into Cursor so that it could go ahead and set up the project. So imagine yourself at this stage in your application. I never probably made this super clear, but the idea is you would follow these similar steps that I'm going through in order to create your own application. And so imagine you're at this point now. You've done all that we've done in the previous videos. Now you're at this point in Cursor, and now it's time to actually, get Cursor to develop your project, or an AI agent to develop your project. So if you recall last time in ChatGPT, I had ChatGPT actually craft our first prompt for Cursor. You don't have to do that. You can just say something like, using these documents that we've added to the project, go ahead and get our project set up. And that should produce the same type of results that we have here. There's a lot of things that happened. There's some files that were generated, some folders and things like that. I'm going to hit keep here. It also created some official Cursor rules for us, which is super important. These rules are going to make sure that every time we ask Cursor to do something, it's basically looking at these different rules that I instructed with our original prompt to ChatGPT to create these. But it's going to make sure to abide by these rules for our project to make sure that our project is nice and clean. So we can just take one of these, for example. I talked about the domain-driven architecture that we want to go by, just because I personally think that it's a little bit cleaner, especially for apps that you don't want to have a lot of the business logic messing or like mucking around in the view. So we're going off of this style here. And so basically Cursor is going to try to follow this rule. Maintain strict separation of concerns. Views are dumb, meaning they don't have any like real like calculating logic in it unless it has to do with the view directly, like a button animation. We have view models that adapt domain state and that adapt domain state to the UI. So we might be holding on to some information, like the user had held the button down and we're capturing the text, we're transcribing what they said, and domain would be responsible for that portion. But the UI, of course, is responsible for displaying the text. So yeah, we can always go back in depth into these things later. If you have questions about those types of things, or you would like me to do videos that cover those kinds of things, I'd be happy to do that. That is a lot more on the engineering side. But I'm going to try to keep this a little bit lighter. You know, this is very dev friendly, but not as engineer friendly, these tutorials right now. I'm just going to keep it a little higher. So anyway, there's a ton of these rules that we have created. There's even rules to write test code. I'll cover that later in another type of video on this channel as well. But yeah, this is looking pretty good. So we have our documents that we got ChatGPT to create last video on RevenueCat and whatnot. What we're gonna do, let's look at what Cursor thinks is next. And actually, let's go over to our app. There should be a progress, there it is. This progress document is going to be our North Star for the most part, other than the user stories. The reason why is because we see these milestones here. This is very much like a production environment where we can look at what's next and we can basically say, hey, go and do this next. But what does Cursor think is next? Ready for next phase. Your foundation, let's see, your foundation is complete and ready. Real audio capture implementation, speech recognition, ChatGPT integration. These are things that it thinks is next. When we look over here at the milestones, initial repository and project structure, create iOS Swift target. So we could skip ahead and have Cursor build this, but I would be remiss if we didn't, include good practices. I'm going to sum this up really quick. So this is important enough to stop us from starting development right now. Sometimes you may get really far in the process of building your application. When that happens, you need to be able to save your work. If you've ever had any kind of experience with writing a document or writing a book or anything, you're writing something and boom, your computer, crashes or something, or the app crashes and all of your data is lost. What if something went wrong with the development of your application? How do you go back? How do you revert back to old times where maybe the app was working perfectly while you continue to develop? That's where what we use in the development world, Git, comes in handy. And so what I'll encourage you to do is to go to GitHub, and I would encourage you to create an account here. Basically, once you've created an account, you'll create something called a repository. The repository is a space that will hold your project online. So if anything ever happens, you can always recover it from any other computer. And furthermore, you can recover from a very specific state that your app was in. So it keeps a nice, pretty timeline or history, if you will, where you can go back to any point in time where your code looked a certain way. So it's super important to be able to save your work as you go along and have these good, like, you know, milestones you can kind of like go back to in history in case something goes wrong, or in case AI like starts to build in a different direction than you want it to. You'll want to revert back to something you didn't like you had before. So without further ado, you would create a new repository. We ended up calling our app Convo. I'm going to do lowercase. Convo Ibo. Which Ibo was supposed to be buddy in Japanese. So conversation buddy. Yeah, just a play on words. And this is our language learning app. I'm just going to give it a small description. Now, there's so many projects out there. Your project is probably fine public for a while, but you probably might eventually want to pay for an account with GitHub. I'm not sponsored by GitHub or anything like that. But GitHub is very, 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 very popular amongst developers and engineers. I use it for work. I've used it at every job I've ever worked at, pretty much, except for one in terms of engineering. So I pay for an account, so I'm going to set this to private to make sure that no one can see this repository randomly or you know, get access to the code and stuff like that. It is also good practice to just select a license to be associated with. I'm gonna be honest, like, I haven't really delved into this. This is something I'm gonna have to look into, but I've always, since the beginning of time, just selected general public license. And we'll have a git ignore. We can actually create a Swift git ignore. What that does is make sure that we ignore certain files that we don't need to pay attention to. There's certain files that will change over time inside of your project. It just becomes a really big nuisance. So it's good to have like a nice git ignore page. Finally, a README. A README is like a description, a very detailed description that engineers or developers will be able to go to and look at to understand how your app works. I'm actually not going to turn this on here because I'm actually going to have Cursor develop our README for us. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And the beautiful thing about this, you know, I would typically take the time to like go into terminal and teach you how to use the terminal. I'm going to save that for another video because I'm trying to get us to the building and testing part as fast as I can without skipping any steps or taking any shortcuts. Like, you know, I know that some of these things, me pausing or like kind of going off, can be a little bit nerve-wracking, but it's very important to like this is like what it means to create a really professional like application. So now I'm going to go over here to code, and we get this SSH link, which is sort of a security link. You'll be able to copy that, and you will go over here and you will tell Cursor, hey. I like to say hey for some reason, but you don't have to. You can just say, let's set up our Git repository. And we can just give it the link. Let me try that again. Copy, paste. There we go. And then once it takes that link, you know, you have to have the right security parameters in order to do this. I think one thing that really helps GitHub actually has a desktop application that you can go and download. I recommend grabbing that application and downloading that first. I won't do that here because that's a whole nother like can of worms to open. It's not that complicated. You're really just kind of like logging into your account that you just created and getting it set up on your computer. The reason why you have to do that though is because you can't just take anyone's link. Like you could try to like grab my link here, but it won't give you permission to it because you're not assigned to the project. So if you create your own repository, you need to at least link your computer one time to GitHub in order to get your project saved up there, to be able to save your project up there. So let's have it do that. It's setting up the GitHub repository. And this is perfect. Okay. Now, when I created the project, I had originally selected like Git. So while this is going, I can explain a little bit. So Git is something that tracks the progress of your project and you can save. It can either just live locally, or it can live locally and you can have your repository on a server. What this was saying up here when it said that we already have a Git is already initialized, that just meant that locally we were already on track to saving the project because I had checked a button when I created the project in Xcode. And so now what it's done is just like made sure to link up that Git, the Git files up to the server. So now it's like tracking the entire project with the repository. Getting that stuff down, if you're unfamiliar, it just takes time, practice, consistency. Doing this over and over again, it will just become second nature. Once again, while this is still going, just want to reiterate, the reason why this is so important is because you want to be able to save your progress and be able to go back in history in order to retrieve something. So that's the reason. All right, so looks like it just finished and we're looking pretty good. So one way that you can actually test this out and make sure that things actually have been saved up there, you can go back to the repository and just Command R, refresh the screen. And then, yeah, check it out. I've got all these files here now. So that means that my project is successfully linked up and now it's saving both on the server and just like locally. We've got a local history. Yeah, so what we can do here, I'm going to tell it, please create a README before we continue on to milestone 0. Milestone 0. Okay. Now, once again, the README, the purpose of the README is to, let's say you decide to have someone else help you develop your project, maybe another developer, or maybe you hire a developer, you're starting to gain some revenue. The README will ensure that the architecture of the project and how the project's laid out and anything that's dev related, and also just some general information, is all in one nice, neat place for your developer to go to. And it'll help them be able to navigate around the project and know where code is supposed to be located and whatnot. So that's the reason why we're having it create this README right now. And so while it's going, we're going, oh, I think it's done. And it's done. Cool. You can always tell it not to use emojis. I think it's fine for our project. It's kind of fun, easier to read. But yeah, it's nicely, this is what I'm talking about, where it like outlines the architecture and everything. I think this is like all perfect. Okay. So let's see if it pushed this up. It may not have. It did. Cool. Awesome. And it's even got this here. Yeah, it actually created a really nice README document. And so guess what? If I decide to, if this ever blows up and I have the ability to hire an engineer or developer or something, this is really nice and neat and easy for a developer to, understand at a glance how things are working. Even if they're going to use Cursor or some other AI tool to do things, this gives them a good start to being able to work with the project and continue to work on features. Now, one thing that's really cool is we've even got our milestones here, our progress. It's kind of reflecting our progress doc, right? And let's see, keep on. Okay, so one thing I'm noticing is that even though it did some of these things in here, I think configured bundle, ID, sign in, add a README, commit baseline project. Even though we've done some of these things, I don't think that we are accurately checking this off. So what I want to do is say, it looks like maybe we are not tracking our progress correctly. I say this because I notice, because I think we have accomplished some of milestone 0, but I don't see any completion checks in our, and the name of our file. What you can do if you want to reference a file directly, you can hold shift and the app key, and you can type in, it's already showing it to me, I guess it knows, progress language learning combo. That's our progress doc. So completion checks in our, okay, so what do we say? But I don't see any completion checks in our, any marked completed. Let's do sort of a quote, mark completed in our progress file. Okay. Furthermore, if we don't have it already, let's make sure we have a cursor rule set up to make sure that we always check and or update progress as we complete and perform tasks. Now, before I actually do that, yeah, I don't necessarily see a rule in here already. There is another thing that we do want to check here before I do this, and that is cursor settings. And then over here in cursor settings, you're going to see cursor rules and commands. And lo and behold, we don't have any project rules added. Okay, so apparently my rules are already active. Okay. Well, we'll trust it for now, and we'll keep it going. This will probably be a gap in the video. I'll probably edit that out just so you're not sitting there looking at me debug nothing. But we can go ahead and continue to make progress. So let's do that. So going back over here to our progress doc, we have made progress, and now, yes, this is what I expect to see as we go along. So this should be automatically updating, creating all services, set up permissions, capabilities. Now, one thing you want to make sure, so I'm going to get it to move on to the next thing. This is a good key here. Let's commit our changes and move on to, and I copied and pasted the next task basically. You don't have to do this. You can just say let's continue. That's kind of but that's kind of the lazy boy way to do it. I think you want to be very intentional. Think of yourself as the product manager, and you're managing this project. You're trying to make sure that this product comes out super clean. So what you're going to start to see here is the real magic happening with this progress doc. Seeing these things get, checked is kind of like the magic, to be honest. As your project continues to get developed. And in a minute here, we'll go ahead and run our app and just kind of see where we're at the moment. Set up architectural scaffolding. I know we're not really in UI yet. Implement audio capture services. So one thing that may be different for you, you may want to be getting these UI tasks done first, if that's your preference. Remember, you're the manager. So you can go in, or you can just in the chat say, let's set up the UI first, using our tasks. And maybe that will be your workflow where you want to see things visually first. I'm kind of, from the ground up builder when it comes to the actual implementation, building the app, where I like to get a lot of the hard stuff out of the way first. And then, eventually get to a point where I'm testing them using UI. It's just all preference, honestly. But I just want to make sure that that's clear that you can do that. You don't have to do it this way where all this implementation is going first. You can say, hey, let's work on the UI first in your chat. So yeah, isn't this really cool? We're getting check marks here that things need to be done. it gave us a warning here, which is great. This is telling us that we need to do something, probably something that it can't do or it doesn't have permissions to do. So it says, note, info.plist needs to be added to Xcode project manually. Okay. So this info.plist needs to be added manually. So if we go over to Xcode, just gonna open that up. I do see info.plist. It is here. For some of you out there, you might actually have to open up Finder, navigate to wherever you saved this project. Some people, you may save it under like a documents or something. But for me, I save it under dev. Let me know if you need a video about navigating Finder or anything like that. I could totally help with that. But my project is definitely under dev. And our project is called Convo Ibu, or Ibo. I'll have to get the pronunciation on that soon. And yeah, here's our project. And info.plist is right here. So for you, you may have had to navigate into your project if you were doing something similar to what I'm doing, and you got that same message in Cursor, like, hey, you need to add info.plist manually. You may need to have Xcode open, and you would need to click and drag and drop info.plist from Finder over into your Xcode project. So we don't have to do that, which is great, because it's already here. And let me see if I can blow this up any. It's not. It's probably hard to see, but this property list, plist, has two properties in it. One of them is associated with microphone usage, and the other is speech recognition usage. These two properties, we have these strings in here, and these strings are holding the text that we want to display to the user when we're asking for microphone usage. So when the app opens up for the first time, maybe we're going to have an onboarding or something like that. And we're going to say, hey, in order for us to, this app to work for you, we need your microphone usage. So we'll pop up a little message and ask the user for that. Also we need to do speech recognition, and we'll pop up another one for that, asking for the user to approve, to get their permission to utilize their device for these things. So yeah, that is that. Let's head over to Cursor again, and we can just say keep all. I'm satisfied with these, and I'm going to say it looks like the info.plist looks like the info.plist is already added to the project. And here's the cool part. I'm going to show you how free this is, because we did all that work up front of, setting things up. We can just basically say, let's continue. You can be as vague as that, and it will just start working on the next milestone, right? It'll go over to the checklist and just start working on that. So you can see why, it's saying, perfect, let's jump into milestone 1. So you can see why I take all that time up front I invest all that time up front to be able to have a clean experience with AI, to create my product bit by bit, and continue to like validate its progress along the way. So we haven't gotten to UI stuff just yet. We are in milestone 1, but we still need to get down here to this build record screen UI. Until we do, we're not really at a point where we could actively test this thing. This is where you're just like, you need to really think about like what you're building. Remember that you're the manager. You're the one that's like overseeing the project. So it's just you and AI, you know? So it's important not to rely too much on AI to like know everything. You need to be responsible for knowing what's coming up soon. Oh, like I probably can't test yet because I don't see anything having to do with UI yet. Or you need to be thinking like this is your employee. So you should ask it like, hey, are we ready to test yet? Can I actually run this app yet and see anything? And it'll tell you like, no, not yet, because we're doing implementation still. Or it'll be like, yeah, actually you could open up the app now and, you know, maybe you'll be able to test the first user story or something. So that's the cool part about all this. It's just very empowering. Like this is going like, I love this is giving me like mock examples here. I think it's building out some example UI at the moment. Let's take a look at what's going on. Like, is there any view stuff in here? Let's see. No, we're still not in any view stuff yet, so it's fine. We'll just let it do its thing. Sweet. Look at these great check marks here. Like, it's awesome. Yeah, so unit test pending. Okay, so it's not going to do like actual code tests just yet. That's fine. And check it out. It's actually like helping us out with our Git history. It's putting all these things in here, all this information in here. So we have very clean, accurate history of what's been accomplished so far. So if I go online and first off, I could probably refresh this. Let's see if it's tracking this too, just out of curiosity. It's not tracking these as strictly. We could tell it to update the roadmap later. That's fine. We care more about the progress file. But what I'm talking about here, there is this little spot up here, very tiny. You see that we have 8 commits. The commits are changes so far that we've actually committed to in history. And this is how we're able to actually go back in time and see what we've done, or if we need to revert something, or even just revert all of our progress back to a moment in time. This gives us the ability to do that. So this 8 commits up here, when we click on this, it'll take us to all the commits that we've had so far. And you didn't see me go into the terminal, or I didn't go into the terminal to do any commits or anything. This is all Cursor doing these commits, which is totally fine. Let's take a look at the last commit that we have. Looks like milestone 1. Yep, sure enough, all that stuff that we just read, this is all the stuff that it accomplished. This is all the, like all the code changes and everything. It's all represented in this commit hash that we're on right now. And so if we scroll down, we could actually see all the file changes and everything like that as well. this is just good to know for yourself. If you're working on a product like this and you need to like go back and see like, oh, like what happened? Like, did something happen? Your investigation skills are going to help you with really tough situations if you ever run into any. But as you can see, with just going about things the way that we have so far, we're not running into a lot of issues, knock on wood. Everything's been super smooth, and that's because we took that time to outline everything super well ahead of time. So I digress. Let's go ahead and back out of here. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and keep this. Now, I didn't see specifically where it added the view code, but apparently we have a record screen somewhere. So I'm curious enough to open up the project here. I can select a device, or I could select a simulator here. That would work as well. Let me actually connect my phone. See if that will work. And remember, all of this has not been scripted or anything like that. We're not doing any scripting. Oh. Okay, so we have some errors here. So one of the things that I did not remind you to do is make sure that you have a developer account if you want to test on a physical device. In order to get a Apple developer account, it is $100. Not a sponsored video or anything like that, but you would go to developer.apple.com and you would create your account. And then with your account, you'll be able to build to your device. You may actually be able to build to your device today without an account. I just don't remember. There's certain features you don't have without an account, but in order to publish, you absolutely will have to have that eventually. So I'd save up and get that done. Automatic signing here. Okay, so the issue here is just the fact that this device isn't registered to be developed on my account. So that's one of the things you'll have to do. I think there's a shortcut. You may be able to go into settings and then type in, or go to general, go to developer, or we can just search for developer. Search. Developer. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, I thought that would have done it. I am the team's admin, so that's interesting. Here's another path. Let me see. My personal account's on here too. Okay, so I can run it with this one potentially. So we have some weird issue here. Note that whenever you see something like this, commands, multiple commands produced, that usually means that maybe there's something that's like there's a duplicate of something somewhere. So if I hover over this for a bit, it seems like there's a duplicate of info plist somewhere. So I'm going to copy this. And I think that's because we already have an info plist here. So, and we ended up adding another one here. What I'm going to do is go to here, and I'm going to two-finger click on this and copy this. Go back over here to our project, and in here I'm going to paste our privacy info prompt, our privacy request, because we're requesting for permissions. I'm going to put these, oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. They're in whatever order they can be. So I'll go ahead and delete this. Now, if you came across this issue, any issue like this on your own, you can copy and put it in a cursor, and cursor will help you solve the issue as well, right? But I just have the experience, and I think that that's probably the issue. So I'm going to try to run this again and see if that actually works. Okay, so we have a ton of small issues speckled all over the place. That's totally fine. I'm willing to bet that some of these are just like published property. Yeah, some of these are just like an import error. Up here at the top, you want to be importing these convenient pieces of code. I mean, you don't have to do it. We can let cursor do it. So like, I'm gonna run this again one more time. You see all of the errors. Okay, all these failures. I know what the issue is, but let's just do this. I'll show you, for example, you copy it over. And I can say, it looks like we have some errors. Some of them, maybe all, seem to be an import error where we are not importing combine. Boom. There we go. Now, you're absolutely, yeah. There it goes again. You're absolutely right. It does seem like that was the issue though. So our app is not the only thing we're going to be using Cursor for down the road. Eventually we're going to use Cursor to develop our, eventually we're going to use Cursor to develop our website as well, because we want to have a landing page for this product. If we want it to be very professional, we want a landing page. We're probably going to create a TikTok for this. We'll probably experiment with a couple of ads later down the road. Right now we're focused on production, getting everything ready. One would say that this stuff is kind of backwards, because what you want to do, and I know that there's plenty of other content creators out there that will that are teaching how to do this, but like, you want to go and do that market research first and find out that your product is actually relevant. We skipped all that because we're focused purely on developing the product. Like, let's say you already did the research, you have the idea. That's what this tutorial series is for bringing that product out as professionally as possible. So, okay, it just finished. We're going to keep all. What we're going to do here is we're trying to run it. So I'm going to run. We're still getting one failure, it looks like. Is this just the same thing? Import. Come on. Oops. Maybe not though. Let's see. No, there's something going on with this generic. That's fine. It's another example of like how free this is. We can head back over to cursor. One more error. Okay, it thinks it's resolved the error. Let's try this again. All right, looks like we've got another error. Let's see what we got. Guard body must not fall through, consider return throw. Now, depending on your experience level, you could go in here and like, you know, do some of these changes yourself, right? But also, like, remember, like, your role is more so the manager right now. You're overseeing the project, making sure it gets done, and trying to get to the point where you can test things out and give feedback, actionable feedback that you can see the results on. Now, the deeper you are into the code portion, you can actually get involved in that too. But I recommend doing that after the MVP. I'd probably say one flaw in how we did things this like so far is with all of these milestones, I probably would have specifically said, let's make an MVP. I don't think in here at all I'm stating that this is an MVP and there will be multiple versions. Like, we have other plans for the future. But it's okay, because all the things that we outlined is essentially the minimum viable product. So I think we're good there. So we're going to run this, see what our other errors are. Cool, we've got some more navigation errors. I think this is just probably like cursor thinking that cursor using older versions of Swift or doing things in an older way that maybe aren't supported anymore. But check it out, it's fixing it so fast. We're so totally good. Let's go back to it again, run it. And hey, we finally got success. Let's see, unable to install device, reach out maximum number of installed apps using a free developer profile. Oh. Okay. Let's delete this. I definitely have a paid account, but I'm running this off of a free account at the moment. I think I'll debug that while I'm not on here with you guys. Okay, so this is a more familiar error. So I need to go into settings. Let me see if I can pull this up so that you can see. Okay. Oh, okay, hold on. Okay. Let's see. If this shows up. Maybe not. Okay, that's fine. We'll make sure that you can see in another video. In the next video, let's run this again. Okay, it's asking us to go under settings, general, device management, and we need to trust the Apple account. Oh, trust. Okay. Now let's run again. And let's see what we got here. Nice. Check it out. That's our app so far. Supports both ways. And when we tap on conversations, we've got this screen for no conversations. Oh, and when we tap record, we get an alert. We'll review this on the next video. Would like to access the microphone. This is perfect. Allow. And then we get another alert, the second alert. It's probably, you probably won't be able to see that. Would like to access speech recognition, speech data from the app will be sent to Apple to process. Yeah, cool. And I wonder if, how far did we get? Okay, cool, that's fine. The button doesn't work yet. But as you can see, we're already getting to the point where we can start testing things and start seeing things. I think this is a really good spot to stop. We have made so much progress. One little tip I'll give you is that I think we can go over to UI. Let's see. App entry. Where can we go? Root tab. Okay, cool. So we have these two views here. Command Shift J to find out where that's located. Okay, so we have these files and folders set up, organized nice and neat. So under features, under app and then features, we can see where all of our like UI screens are. And each UI screen is split into two things. They're split into views and they're split into view models. The view models is where like a lot of some of the logic is, and we're talking into a domain. And then the view is just like purely the view, as you can see, like buttons and stuff like that. So if we come over here to the side and refresh this, this is what I love about working on iOS as well. And I think you can do this in Android as well at the moment. But we can actually see the UI as we're like working on it. So we don't have to run the app. We can come over to some of these views if we want to just check on how the view is looking specifically. And, you know, as you get better and better at reading, and if you have cursor doing stuff like I do, where, check it out, it's actually like putting text in here, comments in here to help us understand what is what in here. So, yeah, this is excellent progress. You know, we're not even in cursor, we're still in Xcode, but like we could look at our progress file here as well. It's doing excellent. Some, you know, last minute tips I could potentially give you is, I kind of like alluded to the whole research thing. It is really important, and some of you may need to really get that done. I do recommend ChatGPT because you'll be able to easily say, please do some deep research into a potential market strategy and value for this app. Boom. And ChatGPT, especially if you have I think the pro version, it'll do some deep research and it'll go off and find as much information as it can and compile it together and give you all of its notes. And you can use this to, you know, execute on your plans. It's even giving references, which is really, really great. I saw in there for a second it splashed Duolingo. Obviously, that would be a potential competitor to this application, but with as niche down this is, however you want to say it, we're not really competing with anyone. So I think if there's anything to take from the lesson today, it's, you know, the process of going back and forth, making sure you're the manager, make sure that you are constantly collaborating with your AI tools to refine your situation, what's going on, how to improve things. Copy and paste your errors over as need be. Make sure your cursor rules are working, and make sure that your progress file is updating, and you will be smooth sailing onto to production. We're smooth sailing. I think majority of the work, honestly, I mean, yes, maybe not majority of the work, but a lot of the work is upfront with the planning and getting that stuff going. Hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and that's how you can support this channel so that we can keep doing this and keep building apps. This was only part 3. We still have a lot to do. So if you have questions, make sure to leave them down below. But yeah, have a good one.